This wheel is
very narrow.
3.5 inches by just under a half inch in width.
So just have to space everything out.
It's also a very hard rubber. It doesn't have a lot of grippiness to it.
That's actually not too terrible because I can kind of compress the ring ever so slightly and use that to get a grip.
I will check through the kit and double check if there are any smaller size wheels. I can just check the rev site to see if it's even a sellable item.
Probably one as big as possible though, because we're looking for speed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to be as long as it doesn't go above the width of 18 inches, I guess. But
yeah. No.
Yeah, right now Jeremy has 3-inch Tetrix wheels for the shooter.
Okay.
So they are what they are.
Okay.
Okay, Simon, how are we doing on the stream?
It's back.
Okay. So Kyle, do you want to talk about?
Sure. So continuing a theme I've been hearing in several of the robots, I decided from the start that I was not even going to try to launch rings. I am focusing on the wobble goal and autonomous and endgame points. So I have a prototype chassis. I don't know if you guys can see this very well. Let's see, my camera is not set up great for this. Long story short, I've gone with, I decided to keep my drivetrain simple because there is no terrain and I don't have to push anything because I don't have any other robots on the field. So I've just got a couple of the Tetrix 3-inch wheels and some Omni's wheels for stability. Your typical skid steer chassis with that.
Can you hold up the robot again slightly higher?
Yes.
I don't think we made it all the way down to the wheels. There we go.
Wheels. And I've got an opening in the front of the frame to catch the wobble goal. And I've got a linkage that's going to have a gripper on the end to lift it. So I can use that to capture it in my frame and lift it up and set it and then lower this into place and set the wobble goal in my robot and carry it around with me. And so I'm going to, my plan is to do autonomous things, drop the wobble goal in the spot, and then the first thing I'll do in driver control is collect it again and spend the rest of the driver control period making stacks of 3 rings. And then end game, I throw them all, as many as I can get, onto the wobble goal and throw it off the field.
Sounds like a well thought out strategy.
We'll see if I can pull it off in less than 24 hours, but that's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
So I take it I don't actually have to ask a robot inspector if it's under 18 inches?
It is under 18 inches.
It looked a little close there on a couple of dimensions.
It is close. It is not under 17 inches.
Okay.
It's usually a good sign.
Yes.
Okay, Duncan?
So I started off with some very weird sketches. I'm not sure if you can see them. Probably not through the webcam.
That's getting better.
How close would I need to get?
It's more than light. It's dark.
Yeah, I don't have great lighting. Anyway, so my strategy is kind of dropping the 3 rings into the logo and autonomous, and then possibly dropping a wobble goal off in the zone. It kind of depends on the amount of programming time I have and how well that goes. Probably not, but we'll see. I'm using a basic kind of 2 wheels and then 2 Omnis design with other things on it. My design is to actually pick up some rings and then try and shoot them in the medium goal for teleop.
Nice.
I'm actually planning on using what amounts to a row of nylon spacers on screws as kind of rollers, and then have it swing the ring around a circle and then launch it out.
Interesting. Nice.
Would this be on top of a flat piece of Teflon?
Yeah, I'm creating a sheet of kind of circular. If I can get over this portion of the.
Oh.
It's like a centrifugal pump.
Yeah. Where you would load a ring in and then it would get spun around and shot out. Hopefully with actual spin on it so that it doesn't start wobbling in the air for accuracy. But we'll see how that goes in the next 12 hours or so.
If you put a little bit of rubber on the outside on one edge, you might encourage it to spin.
Yeah. I'm also not sure if the spinning is strictly necessary or not. It's kind of one of those where you have to like start testing it and then see how it shoots. And then does it start bumbling end over end, or does it start spinning? Or
I don't actually know how high is the goal relative to the diameter of the things. Like, can you score with the ring flat, like face on, or does it have to be sideways?
Well, the medium goal you definitely could, and the low goal you probably could. The high goal, me and Simon were experimenting a bit earlier this morning, and you cannot have it anywhere but perfectly flat.
Oh wow!
If you're standing next to the goal, you can place a ring vertically in that hole, in that space.
There's all of 1 millimeter on the top and like 2 millimeters on the bottom in terms of gap.
Yeah.
And side of those, the ring just kind of bounces off of the high goal.
Okay.
So it very much needs to be horizontal if it's going to try and go through the high goal, but that is a very small window.
Yeah.
Also, coincidentally, in endgame, I would probably be trying to do power shots because the medium goal is also the same height as the power shots.
Nice.
Yep.
At least we have somebody playing with the maybe shooting a ring.
Yep.
Did you describe how you're going to pick up the rings?
No, I have a plan, basically a very small arm mechanism that will kind of flip up and over. And it's just going to have a very basic servo with a grabber. It'll just pick up a ring and then dump it in the hopper and then swing back down.
Are you planning to gear so you can get both sides, or are you planning just to have one side moving?
One curved side and then one curved side that moves.
Okay.
And then a grip pad in the middle to actually get it to grip the ring.
This might be a question that would be answered if I'd read the full game manual part 2, but are you allowed to have rings fall from the human player onto your robot, or do they have to hit the field first?
It's confusing in that sense. There was a specification somewhere I saw that the phrasing is that rings must touch the playing field floor before they can be scored. It had nothing to do with the human player.
Oh, but could you theoretically drop a ring onto a robot grabber and then the robot just tags it on the floor in full possession of the ring?
I would need to. Let me see if I can find it.
Theoretically, that sounds like it's currently possible, but that would probably be a Q&A that would be answered later.
Yeah, I had the same thought. That seems like...
Because I wondered if that might make it easier for Duncan to pick up a ring.
I think I can make a grabber that can pick up it sounds like, from what it sounds like, I'll be playing with the 3 rings that I've loaded in autonomous, and then I'll probably pick up 3 for the entirety of Polyop, and then just shoot at the power shots in endgame. We'll kind of see at how fast this picker-upper is, but it's probably not very fast.
Yeah.
Since I only have 10 hours to try and build a grabber.
Okay, Simon.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh,
Just so that, because we're on the human player handling rings, human players may introduce rings into the playing field floor with the constraints listed below. You may only use the return rack.
Doesn't a robot have to be a full tile away from it?
That's if they want to retrieve rings that are stuck in the tower.
Okay.
Must be during driver
Theoretically, maybe you
control.
could be retrieving rings from the tower while people are shooting into the tower.
Sounds
Yes.
like yes.
Okay. I'm not sure if that's a great plan or whether that'll be Q&A later,
Yeah.
but
Okay. Separately under control and possession limits, GS6, rings may be controlled or possessed to a maximum of 3 rings. A launched ring is considered controlled until it makes contact with something else.
Interesting.
Part B, controlling or possession of a ring by a robot before the ring has been supported by the playing field floor will earn a minor penalty for each occurrence.
Okay. That's what I expected, but
It's interesting they specify the playing field floor, because if it lands on a wobble, that's not included.
well, I guess that makes sense. I guess it's so that you can't have a robot that holds a wobble in endgame right under the human player, and then you have your partner just dump rings for the human player, and the human player just scores them directly onto a wobble in endgame.
I'm glad to see they also banned the robot that carries around a wobble goal and just stacks all the rings onto it so nobody else can have any.
During driver controlled.
Yes. That you wouldn't get points for them, but nobody else can score them.
Okay.
I mean, that's part of the, at the very least, I didn't see that it was explicitly out loud, but it would definitely be under the, would make the game unplayable.
For sure. GS6 also says strategies for controlling rings that deny all access by other robots are not allowed.
Okay.
Not to see.
Okay, are we ready to move on to Simon?
I think so.
Okay.
Is Simon ready to move on to Simon?
I think Simon is ready. Here, I'll grab my robot. Oh. I believe it.
Just take the headphones off for a second.
I refuse to. So this you might recognize as the one drivetrain I know how to make, as I've used it all like 4 seasons of First I've ever done. So the idea here was that it's very basic as far as I turned it on. Hey, nice. It's very basic as far as this goes, as far as the drivetrain goes, and in the front. Originally, and this isn't going to happen anymore, I've decided, but originally it was going to be like, imagine like a ramp with, like the Hot Wheels launcher, like what Jeremy was going to do. But I've decided that that is quite impossible, especially with, you know, Torquedo motors, because those are meant for driving, not, you know, launching stuff into a stratosphere. So instead, I think I've opted for like almost a elevator kind of idea, where it would take it, try to move it upwards at least to at least either the bottom or the second goal, and that way, you know, I'll be able to score something. As far as the wobble, what are they called? Wobble
Goals.
Bubble
are they
goal?
just wobble goals? Okay.
Yep.
As far as the wobble goals go, I'm hoping to be able to, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to place it over, so I'm hoping just to be able to move it in autonomous, you know? I'm not going to try any miracles here.
Yep.
But yeah, that's about it. Pretty basic.
Your elevator design, have you thought through what
it's
materials
gonna-
you're using?
I was thinking, you know those flat plates, right? That come in the Tetrix kits? It's like, I use them here. Like, what these are mounted. Wow, that's a boat all.
Yeah.
Yeah. What, you know, those.
Yeah.
I was thinking one of those with one of those, I think they're from Robotics, those guardrails kind of things, where it's a flat with the just holes going across, and it's like one, I don't know what to call them. They're like a
So is it
guardrail.
an L shape or just a flat bar?
It's just a flat bar.
The
and
flat bar,
it's
the thicker ones. I
the
think.
thicker flat bars, right?
Yeah.
So the idea was it's going to be like that with 2 motors spinning, and so it'll slowly move it up by just gripping the side of it, and then it'll. I think I have a
So
drawing.
what?
Yeah,
Which
here.
part is spinning?
Yeah. I think it was more
wheels
like-
wheels are spinning. think of it like this, right? So
Okay.
it picks it off the ground, and then it just slowly lifts it up, and then it flops over into the goal. And then that way
low goal.
Yeah.
low goal probably. Yeah, I'm not gonna be super high
The medium
scoring.
goal requires shooting.
Yes, exactly. So low goal. Yes.
So do you have everything that you need for your robot?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you have enough expansion hubs? Because I know I'm going to need another expansion hub.
I have a singular expansion hub, and since I'm using 4 motors, I don't think it'll be an issue.
Oh, right, because your drivetrain only takes 2.
Yeah, that's why I went with the simple one. Yeah, but I think that's the plan.
Has anybody thought about how they're going to program autonomous?
Yet.
Was that
Was that-
Kyle said yes?
I'm thinking color sensor on a servo arm to check the stack height,
Oh,
Fancy.
and
big brain.
just straightforward either encoders, or I heard something about there being an IMU in the hubs.
Mhm.
Okay, some combination of those for navigation. I probably don't need anything fancier than that for what I'm going to be doing,
Why a color sensor?
because this is what I have.
Okay.
I have that in touch sensors. It seemed more useful.
Yeah, I
The
think you have
encode-
a color and a touch and a distance. Didn't I send a distance? No, maybe not.
I don't think so.
I think
I
the
would-
distance sensor might have gone to Jeremy.
That makes sense.
Maybe. I think I have sensors.
Let me confirm, but I think I just have color.
Okay, I can't remember which ones I put where.
I don't think I saw any sensors in that package, but I haven't looked at every single component. How big are they? Are they just like a
They're quite
They're
small.
pretty
They normally come in the
small.
rev box.
in the
Like
ref
the-
box?
Dan, do you have any sensors?
Yeah,
Can
I
Here, I have
kind
one.
of think I remember taping some of them to the inside of one of the bins or something, like a little plastic bag.
Yeah, there's definitely a little plastic bag. I thought there was a servo in there, but I didn't look too.
I think that might be the sensors.
Okay.
I have one of these. I think this is the color sensor.
Sometimes
There
if
are
we're lucky, they
sensors.
actually
This
say it
one
right on
is
it.
the color sensor.
There is one version of the Rev color sensor that's also a distance sensor, so make sure you check that out.
Okay, I will.
Yes,
Yes, the
because
Color
different
sensor
versions,
comes in V1, V2, and V3.
Yeah.
and they get programmed differently.
I wonder.
Does the V2 include distance?
I don't know which one does what.
I've got the Rev site up.
Yeah. I was just
I think
gonna-
Alex trying as well.
Oh, there's a switch. What's a switch for?
Do you know which version you have? That was
Simon at the
Simon?
moment.
It's the V2.
okay.
Yeah. So see, I think if they don't I think the one that Kyle has doesn't actually have a name on it. So I think that's the V1.
Yes, this matches the V1 color sensor I'm seeing on the Rev site.
Ah, Jeremy's got one.
I got this. Was this a distance sensor?
Does it
Or-
Does
say?
it say on it?
It's got all it has is
Touch sensor.
1718 rev. And then,
Okay, one sec. I will taste it.
That
Put
looks
that.
like my touch sensor, but
I think it's a touch
they have-
sensor.
Oh yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, that would, because I don't see any I don't see any transmitters or RF. What does it
Can
even
you press
use?
the white bit?
Was
Yeah, push
Yeah,
the
it's a
right
touch
one.
sensor.
yeah, that's the touch sensor. That was the only sensor that you had
That was the one that was on the
in the little Ziploc.
No, that was actually on the robot that you gave me itself before I tore it
Okay.
apart. I'll check that bag though.
Okay.
This touch sensor might work.
Simon, I dumped the page for the color sensor
Oh, right.
in the
thank you.
chat. It does say built-in IR proximity emitter and detector.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But then there's a lot of information saying it's replaced with the version 3.
hmm
Hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but you probably, well, you might have the newest version of the code, but it's certainly still supported. They like to as somebody who's recently been looking at the code, I can confirm everything is properly supported, regardless of whether or not there's an error message that tells you not to use it.
Thank you.
It looks like they do have all three sensors then: color, touch, and distance. That's fancy.
Okay, so Kyle, what language are you programming in?
I have used onbot Java before. I'll probably stick with that.
Okay.
Unless anybody
Simon?
the new strong.
Probably gonna go on bot Java, or if I'm really lazy, blocks.
Duncan?
I haven't actually decided, but on Java or blocks probably. I don't really feel it's necessary to do Android Studio, basic programs and basic teleops, and not a whole bunch of complicated sensor use where and would be more effective.
Kath?
So unlike the rest of you all, unless there is something that I need to do in onbot Java, I will be using blocks because I spent a summer working in blocks, so I am slightly more familiar with it.
We actually have a comment from Joel in the YouTube chat saying, reminding you that Vuforia is probably already built in if anybody wants to try to use that.
Oh.
I would say that's probably going to be pretty hard to. You can try, but it's going to be pretty hard to do without knowing the lighting outside beforehand.
At the moment, it looks like we're downstairs at Makerspace.
Right, because it's pretty smoky.
Yes. So we very nicely got moved inside and nobody seems to be complaining. So unless we have really nice blue skies tomorrow, we're going to try to be in the basement.
Yeah.
Which is fluorescent lighting, but I agree it is more work.
Jeremy, how are you coming? Have you tried the programming? Yeah, I've been playing around with the blocks just because they're easy. I might break into some of the Java if I feel like I need to do something more complicated than I already am. But I mean,
there is actually the entire API is implemented in blocks. Anything you can do in Java of the core libraries, you can do in blocks.
Oh, so I don't really need to go and modify things afterwards? Because I was just going to export it and then kind of tinker around with the code when I...
You can do that if you want, but like if that's more comfortable, for sure. But anything that you can do can be done in either place.
Okay.
And when you've been programming in blocks, you've seen that it automatically translates to the Java?
Yeah, I did notice that, which is why I kind of wanted to switch over to Java at some point, because I'm definitely more comfortable with words than I am with blocks. But...
Well, I share that sentiment, so.
Hey, come on, I got to watch you create a blocks program for the first time a couple months ago.
Yeah, no, I'm comfortable doing it now. But...
It's just not a preference.
I grew up all through FLL, so I learned 3 or 4 different blocks languages for that, or a similar type.
Oh my gosh, you're like uncovering repressed memories of my NXT right now.
Well, I learned Robolab, NXTG. I think I may have learned a bit of LabVIEW at one point.
LabVIEW, that was it.
Robot Lab was based in LabVIEW.
Yeah, all right, that was the derivative of LabVIEW that we used for a couple seasons. And then it wasn't until after I was out of FLL that I started learning some of the newer EV3 languages and a couple of other ones. Yeah.
When I first started FLL, we still had to use RCX code.
I believe the RCX code actually used Robolab.
The RCX.
No, Duncan, you could. It was possible, but the RCX had its own proprietary graphical language.
Okay. I did actually learn a bit of that at one point. We did have with RCXs way back then.
Okay.
Oh,
We've
man.
never had an RCX.
A couple of camps I went to at U of A.
Yeah, Science Fiction has one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can attest that they had RCXs in the closet.
Yeah.
Is anybody running into any challenges that they need some help with?
I was just going to make one comment. I can confirm that the color sensor definitely can get distance.
Okay, cool.
For the Rev 1. You might need to, you should be able to access it through the hardware map, but I can give you some aid with that if that's necessary. But just from looking at the actual API, it implements distance sensor, so I'm pretty sure it is a distance sensor.
That is helpful, thanks.
And if you guys hadn't spotted it, Alex's email was in the email notice for this meeting, which is how he happened to arrive, which is great.
I remember just in time.
Okay, so back to my question. Is anybody running into challenges that they want to think about, ask questions about?
I had an issue and then I fixed it with pliers, so.
So for those of you who didn't hear, Simon was stripping servo screws earlier this evening.
Oh, here, show and tell time. Oh man, I dropped the servo screw. One sec, I'll hunt for it.
Too.
I know, right? It's painful. Where did it go? Have you ever dropped a pen and then realized like it teleported? It's in a different dimension, even though you dropped it on like hard ground and you knew exactly. Oh, found it. Nice. Show and tell time. Autofocus.
Oh, you're doing your Zoom thing?
Yeah. Look at this beautiful example.
Ouch.
Don't worry. I have two others nearly like that. Alec is wincing right now. Duncan is dying inside. I can tell the rest of you guys just find it funny.
Well, I ended up having to give the comment of just get a pair of pliers and then...
I tried it earlier, but for some reason it worked that one time, so I'm very happy about that.
So we have a question from the chat. From working on a robot this year, what's the most challenging aspect of the game you had to think through?
We've had so little time to think about this game.
Yeah. I would say, I guess, as usual, the point allotments goes fairly heavy towards autonomous and endgame scoring points. And there's a lot you can do fairly quickly without using the shooting. If my shooting mode is probably going to be one of the lowest scoring ones, even if it works, because shooting does not score a lot of points.
Unless you get the power targets.
Unless you can shoot power targets in autonomous and endgame.
Yeah.
But
that's 90 points if you can get both sets.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like he's optimistic, does it?
Accuracy for shooting power shot targets? Not at all. In endgame, there's a slight possibility if I actually get the shooter working.
In endgame, when you're shooting, no matter what, when you're shooting, do you have to be behind the white line?
Yes.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yep, flat out.
Okay.
Yeah, the only time you don't have to be would be for the low goal. You can just go dump things in the low goal
Hence the
at any
elevator.
point in time.
Right. Okay.
I guess technically also, if you are breaking the plane, but the ref thinks it's inadvertent and inconsequential, you might be okay, but don't count on that.
Yeah.
We're going to have really strict referees tomorrow.
Okay.
And I think they're actually going to be invisible, so they're going to be really tough on to spot.
For strategy, it is hard to think through what can get points quickly, but also because this is a symptom of the fact we're doing it in 2 days or like a day, that we are looking at the fast points or the highest reward for the limited number of mechanisms. The nice thing is that there's different scoring to grow into over the season, and that's something teams should keep in mind throughout the year, is that there is a variety of things they can do when they've got a bit more time on their hands.
Likely this game leaves room for robots to grow as much as it does.
So, Jeremy, given that this is kind of the first time you've seen a game challenge and had to think about a robot, what did you think was the most interesting or the toughest part?
I mean, I think this is more just from inexperience, but being able to use all the images around the outside of the ring to be able to position a robot properly, like I can definitely see the logic and how that would allow for really strong autonomous gameplay, but it's quite foreign to me at the moment. The shooting mechanisms and everything, that's fine. I mean, if you gave me the right tools, I can make stuff like that all day.
Okay. So, Alec, do you happen to know if the new Vuforia targets are actually images are actually in the app already?
Well, what version of the app are you using?
I had to download them yesterday.
Like, did you download the release for this season?
I thought I did.
Because if you downloaded the release for this season, then they'll be in there. If you didn't, then they won't, because that would give you information on the game before the season.
Yeah, see, I don't think they, unless it was, they wouldn't have, so you're saying they had to release it today if it was...
I don't know if it was necessarily released today. It was released to me about a week ago. I don't know what actually public is time frame. So app v5.5 should support it. I can look at what's actually public because I don't really.
Okay, so I downloaded these yesterday or Thursday, and I'm just bringing up the about. I am using 5.5.
So Kath certainly should have. I mean, I guess I haven't actually run them, but I expect so because that was the release for this year's game. So I would anticipate they would be in there. I could take a quick look. I should be able to find that.
Jeremy, if you're actually that interested in the Vuforia stuff, I can try to find a video that walks through how to use the Vuforia targets. It'll be from an earlier season, but it would be the same mechanism.
Right. So would I still need to download the new one, though, to make sure I have the right images to reference?
Well, you would need to double check which version you have.
Gotcha.
Do you have your phones nearby?
No, they're in the other room charging.
Okay. When you turn them on, if you kind of go into the three dots, there's a self-inspect option.
Right.
And it would tell you which version it is.
Okay, I'll check that out.
The other thing is there is an IMU built into the expansion hub if you want to try to use that for navigation.
Okay. Yeah.
That might be easier.
Could be fun.
I mean, I have heard a lot of people say that they can use Vuforia, but it doesn't seem to be the thing most teams go to in their first attempt at navigation. So I would say there's probably some reason why they try the IMU.
Right. Well, I mean, with having a distance sensor and a touch sensor, that does at least give me some ability to kind of sense where the field is and use that to navigate as well.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Joel's asking, what do you think will be scoring more points tomorrow, the autonomous or the end game?
What has more points?
I think
I would say probably end game wobble goals off the field, which is probably what's going to score the most points.
It's only 20.
Plus
yeah, I know, but I think it's going to be end game just because nobody's going to have time to perfect their autonomouses.
Yeah.
Autonomy.
If we talk, we'll talk maybe after the live stream about how early we're setting up the field there tomorrow. Maybe.
We actually left the field set up.
Oh,
we did.
We did.
What is this year's game called again?
Ultimate Goal.
Ultimate Goal.
Huh.
It's not in the 5.5?
I'm not seeing anything.
Okay.
There was a weird thing I can attest to when I opened my apps for the first time that showed me a screen that said infinite recharge, which really confused me.
Infinite recharge?
Not the
name of an FRC game.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Well, you can
It hasn't
submit
shown
an
up
issue on
since.
you can put an issue on the FTC app, and the tech team will look at it.
Do they use the same app or?
No.
No.
Then why?
I literally don't know why I saw it.
Yeah,
Well, there are lots of
nobody
shared
else has
mentors.
seen it. Kath only saw it one time. So
I don't know.
Yeah.
okay, so Simon, you think you're good with the parts you've got?
Yeah, I'll make do.
Okay. Jeremy, if
Yeah.
you built your shooter using your current motors and then when we get there tomorrow we swap to the faster motors, do you think that could work?
Yeah.
Or do you feel like you really need to test them tonight?
No, I mean I was happy to go into it without a shooter, so I can just try it out now, and then worst comes to worst, it's just what I expected it to be.
Okay.
How many motors is your shooter going to use likely?
2. I'm using 2 for the drive train and then 2 for the shooter.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure so that I made sure that there was 2 left over that wasn't being used by one of the people here. 2 robots being built here tonight.
I have a question. What do people use as reference for wiring and even just programming? Because I am out of touch with the FTC technology.
What do you mean by reference? Like
How
where
do
the
you
documentation
orientate?
is found?
Yeah, documentation. Yeah. Is that on
yeah.
the first website somewhere?
Do you actually have like the SDK downloaded, or are you just using OnBlocks from having downloaded it from the Play Store?
I am using it from the Play Store in that sense. Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's something we've discussed is actually as a future improvement would be having the Java doc as a web page within the web browser. But I don't think that's been done yet. So I don't think. However, if you go to the FTC app, GitHub, you might be able to read it there.
The other thing is in the FTC team resources section, there is a specific category for programming resources. And it has both blocks and on-bot reference material. A lot of it is short YouTube videos that will walk you through some of the basics. And then there is, and also teams have often put together like blocks for the color sensor or something like that also.
Yeah, so, okay, so there is a GitHub wiki. I'll share the link, but that's, at least that's the official thing as far as what teams have done. I'm sure there's lots out there too.
Yeah, I've also just found the official blocks programming guide, which would probably be a help for looking up sensors.
Yeah,
because they're just a little bit different.
Here's the full API. Anyone can look at that if they want to, but it might be overwhelming. There are lots of classes.
So Joe put another comment in the chat, not that I quite understand it. OnBot takes it from your config file. Not quite sure.
I think what Joel is trying to get at is that if you have an active config file on your phone, when you load blocks or OnBot, it can auto config and generate the relevant classes and store them. But if you want to understand what those classes do, that's when you look at the API to actually get somewhere. So that's the primary use for the API. And you do still have to know, like, because I guess I haven't done this in a while, but as far as using the color sensor as a distance sensor, I don't know how it will, like, what class it will give you by default. That's something I'm actually not sure. So you might need to play around with that to get it. And that might be actually something that'll be easier to do in Java than on blocks. But
So
I'm also not sure.
Kyle, who has that sensor.
Okay. Well.
As Kyle had zoned out.
Yeah, I'm reading API, but I should pay attention.
It's hard because you've got a robot building going on in the back of your brain, and that you.
Yes.
But I do think it's your sensor was the one that Alec was discussing.
Yes, I think so too. This is the one that has distance.
Okay, does that seem like we have covered?
Okay, so it will be, so just for reference, Kyle, so for the distance sensor, if you're using Java, the object, you can either do hardwaremap.get and then use links I2C color range sensor .class, or it will be located in both the color sensor and the optical distance sensor maps.
Okay, thanks. Good to know. Interesting.
Actually, I have a good question for all of you. If you had a month, what would be one mechanism you would actually build and program and put on your robot? So basically, I'm saying without constraints. So like time, resources, abilities, what would be a cool mechanism you'd like to see on your robot? Even make Alec answer that one.
Yeah, no, I certainly will answer that one. I haven't thought about it very much, though, what my ideal robot would look like. I'd certainly be scoring and autonomous. That's for sure.
You remember the year you guys drove up to the beacon and you actually could say, please push the button on the left correctly, but you couldn't actually physically push the button on the left?
We ran out of motors and servos are weak. Sorry.
Oh, I remember that. We had to just ram in with we used a standoff. And we just used to we had one of those flat plates and we just rammed into the button and hoped that it'd work. It was really bad.
Yeah. Well, our camera was on the side of the robot. So we were driving past it and we didn't have Mechanism wheels that year. So we were driving past the beacon and then we had a little servo arm that flipped up, but it was made of plastic and just sort of bounced off the button and didn't usually press it. But the vision worked. Lily pressed it once. We have to give Lily credit. It did work for the judges on a practice field, so that was important.
As your referee for those years, it was painful to watch robots ram the field wall again and again.
Yeah, but you were never the referee when we had the flip-flop on that robot. That was the only dangerous thing.
I don't remember the flip-flop.
That's probably good for you.
Okay, so now everybody's had a chance to think a little bit more about what mechanism would you wish to have on your robot. Let's see if we can get some answers to that.
I would say probably some form of a rack and pinion or linear slide device that has plates that could stack 3 rings together and then stack them with a wobble goal, and then actually grab the wobble goal with the same plates, and then lift that off the field with just one mechanism.
Okay.
I would certainly want to grab the wobble goal. I don't really know why exactly, but I definitely feel like it should just be flipped 180 degrees over the entire robot. I think that's unnecessary, but that's what I'd like to do. And I'm not sure exactly what the best way to get the frisbee effect would be, but you certainly would want the frisbee effect on the thing. And this would be the year of all the games I've seen so far, particularly if you're playing it in a remote situation where you don't have to worry about getting bumped. This is the year where you don't need a driver. This robot should be able to play the game fully by itself. The rings always fall onto the field in exactly the same spot, and you shoot from exactly the same spot every single time. Even if I could drive the robot, I wouldn't want to align it for shooting in the top goal. I would want the robot to align itself.
Yeah.
Because if particularly in a remote situation, you don't have to worry about unpredictable things like other robots getting in the way of your distance sensors or just smashing into you. So that would be the way to go.
I will remind you that human players are supposed to return rings fairly fast to the field. So rings are likely to be on the field. That doesn't mean you won't be able to predict them, but
I think Alex's point is once you go and collect the 3 rings, you would have something to automatically line your robot up and something to automatically shoot.
Yeah.
Certainly automatically shoot. Does the human player have to return them as fast as possible?
They are not allowed to hoard them in any capacity, it sounds like.
Okay, so they're just there because an automatic return system is complicated to build.
Yeah.
They also have to reset the power targets.
Okay, but it's not like the human player last year where they got to choose when the thing was put onto the field. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so then maybe you still might have to do some teleop driving to pick up, but certainly shoot, just be a button and it'll go back, align itself, and good to go.
Okay, Kyle, what have you come up with?
The biggest thing I would explore if I had more time that I haven't here is ring launching. I like the idea of a launcher like the old ball shooters we used for hotshot and games like that, but with one of the 2 wheels slightly faster, so it puts some spin on them. I also really like Alex's suggestion of automated alignment and shooting. That seems like the only way to go, especially for remote matches.
Jeremy, do you have any ideas?
I mean, I would definitely focus on the ring shooting as well. Ultimately, it would be nice to have like a mechanism similar to a repeater crossbow, where I could have a hopper where I could just load rings into it as much as I want and start shooting them off. So it need some kind of grabber mechanism to be able to pick the rings off the floor and then feed it back into the hopper. But that would make up for any mistakes I have as far as accuracy and being able to hit targets every time.
Note that you're only allowed to control 3 rings at a time, unfortunately. But
yeah, well, I mean, that's so I get rid of 3, go pick up 3, get rid of 3.
Yeah.
As far
go ahead, Kyle.
as far as wilder mechanisms go, Jeremy's suggestion made me think of using the wobble goal as a ring storage even during driver control to bypass. But that seems like it is pushing up against the hoarding rings to deny other robots access rule.
Actually, the bigger question mark in the ruling would be rings starting an end game scoring activity early.
The way I read that, it wouldn't count as scored for that, but the only thing that would happen would be just 0 points for those purposes.
Yeah, because it might work, especially if the robot is in control of the wobble goal, because then it's not considered scored.
Yeah, that would be the idea.
Yeah.
So Kyle's plan is really like right now he's talking about making stacks of 3 rings. He'd like to make the stacks on the wobble goal that he's holding on to.
Yeah.
Right,
And
but
I
if you're
quite do it that way because
you can't do that because if you're holding the wobble goal, then you're also in control of the rings.
But the rings that are supported by the wobble goal don't count towards your 3 for control limit.
Oh, I see.
That's the whole point.
And there is a wobble goal per robot, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There's some weird loopholes there that it'll be interesting to see if it gets either clarified or worked around.
Mm-hmm. And actually, an even better thing, this would be like this wouldn't work for a remote match, but the ultimate teamwork thing is because you can't score it on your own, right? But if you had one that you loaded it onto your own wobble goal, if you could really easily manipulate the wobble goal, you fill up your wobble goal during teleop, and then in the end game, you just dump your entire wobble goal onto theirs.
I love it.
Remote matches have 2 wobble goals.
Yeah, but they don't have another robot to help you hold it.
You can make one robot that can hold 2 wobble goals.
Can you only hold one wobble goal?
Yeah,
or are
that's
you allowed to
yes.
hold both?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just one? Yeah.
No, I think you're saying you're allowed to hold both.
No, you're only allowed to hold 1 wobble goal.
Okay. I haven't read that part of the rules, so.
Yeah, but if you could really well control the wobble goal, it would be an interesting way to pick up all of the rings early. But maybe then that would be considered hoarding. I don't know.
I don't know how you hoard rings at a remote event.
Well, I mean, that's a question, but well, because that's true. Because for the remote events, each team gets 10 rings, right? So there are actually 40 rings in play in a remote event, but only 20 in a real one.
Ratio-wise.
Because the way First designed a remote event, there's only a single team playing.
Oh, so you don't have an alliance partner. It's just
You
1v1?
Yes.
Okay. So certainly still different, but
Yeah.
same number of total rings.
Getting back to
entirely likely that a single high-scoring robot would score more points in a remote event than it would in a traditional event, because they wouldn't have to share things with their alliance partner.
Or enemies.
Yeah.
Opposing alliances.
It's more getting to the, like, if a single robot has a lot of capabilities, it's possible that their partner can get in their way. Like, oh, we want to do this, and then the partner's only 50% accurate. And so.
Yeah. One thing I think is going to be a big, for mechanisms this year, a big problem is picking the rings off the field. Mm-hmm. They are so narrow, and they usually land flat. And they don't, what is nice is they don't roll when you touch them like balls do. Like when you touch a ball, it rolls away from you.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe some sort of opposite Stomper could work.
So just for those who don't understand a Stomper mechanism, a team several years ago used an oversized PVC pipe, and then used, was it zap straps or elastics inside?
Zap straps, but both were used by teams in general.
Started this, at least.
Yeah.
We used zap straps, but other teams successfully used elastic string too.
Yeah. And there were balls in the field that year, and the mechanism would go down over top of the ball. And then essentially trap the ball down.
There's enough force when you're pushing down, the zap strap deflects and it can fit, but then the weight of the ball doesn't push it open afterwards.
Yeah.
But my opposite one would be where you have sort of like 4 prongs that are sort of spring-loaded out, and then you stomp down into the center of the ring, and sort of the rings are pressing, spreading to hold the ring. And then you have some way at the end of, probably with a string like 7198, to pull the 3 things in the middle so then they can all fall out.
Yeah, you're almost looking at like a spider or a flycatcher mechanism there.
Yeah, but on the inside instead of grabbing the outside of the ring.
What I was getting at was I was wondering if a plow or like snow shovel type scoop on the bottom and then some sort of wheel on the top would even work this year.
I'm not sure. Certainly it could against the wall, but it would be annoying if you had to hit the wall every time.
Yeah, don't recommend that for moving elements around. My personal opinion is never design a robot that requires the field perimeter flat out.
As Alec just kind of go, well, yeah.
The wall Stomper was okay. It was faster than the normal Stomper. That doesn't mean it was.
We redesigned it and made the down Stomper that could actually collect like 6 or 8 at the same time.
Yeah.
I remember, didn't we bend or break the wall Stomper multiple times?
Oh yeah.
Because we just ran it into
the wall. Not a reliable mechanism, but it's the sort of the case of the match is 2.5 minutes long.
No, Joel, they are not zap straps. They are zip ties.
Kath calls them zap straps.
How could you?
So do I.
Because we competed in the US before we competed in Canada.
It's not just a Canada thing. I don't think it's a whole Canada-US thing. Oh. General Fusion, they call them zap straps.
You're hurting me.
What's great is when you get to a place where they call them cable ties.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You know that meme where it's like all the Teletubbies putting their hands in? Or no, it's all the people putting their hands in, and then the one guy's a Teletubby, and he's like... Never mind.
I'm really tempted to start calling them zap ties just to mess with you all.
Zap ties? Now that's just evil.
Yes.
That might be their new name. Okay. Anybody have anything final to say? I
just want to remind everyone it's okay if What I was going to say was I want to remind everyone that it's okay if robots don't get finished. How many teams have we seen show up to events and the robots are not done?
So many.
And the goal at that point is everybody just works together to get the robots finished and playing on the field. So that is probably a good time. Actually, maybe Simon, it's time to wrap up the live stream. And then we can just do a few housekeeping things for tomorrow. We will be live streaming the matches, hopefully between 2 and 3 tomorrow afternoon.
Be there. Okay, bye stream. Everyone say bye stream. Bye.
Bye.